Our chair now recognizes the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Turner.
Mr. Colby, this is going to be a nice transition from your conversation you just had turning you to page 10, where you were just referencing on Russia. You agree that Russia is an adversary and a direct threat to the United States?
Russian military forces clearly pose a direct threat to the United States, of course, yes.
Excellent. You were just being interviewed in a publication, Foreign Policy, that was published February 2026 concerning our commitment to NATO. You acknowledged the United States is committed to NATO. It is committed to Article 5. The administration from the president on down has made that clear. You made that statement unequivocally. However, you were then asked further questions about that statement after having made the unequivocal blank statement. And quite frankly, you waffled. And I'm going to give you a chance to unwaffle. And the unwaffling is, in that blanket statement, I think you made it clear that within NATO, there are no territories within NATO that are second-class citizens. There are no territories within NATO that are not within our Article 5 commitment, correct? The Baltics, the Balkans, there are no areas in which we have a lesser commitment.
Sir, I respect that you're making those statements. What I said is we are committed to Article 5, which is enshrined in the Washington Treaty. That's what I said.
So to make it clear so that you're waffling, which goes on page after page, since you are capable of making the blanket statement, you are capable of saying that within the blanket statement of the United States is committed to NATO, NATO the aggregate of NATO, and is committed to Article 5. You are capable, in front of this committee that is committed to NATO and committed to Article 5, to acknowledge that there is no territory within NATO, that there's a second-class citizen, and there's no area within which within our national defense strategy is a lesser territory.
Sir, what I said and what I continue to say is that Article 5 of the Washington Treaty...
It's a yes or no question, Mr. Colby, and I'm a member of Congress. You have ability to say yes, that there is no
what I said, sir,
lesser.
Is Article 5 of the Washington Treaty applies to all of NATO? Of course, absolutely.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that, because you didn't have to go on and to continue, which is what everybody's struggling with here. And I want to just say, I want to agree with the chairman. What's been so difficult, and which is really kind of gross, sitting here listening to you, is the chairman has said he feels like you're dishonest, right? And you have been so disingenuous. Every time you answer a question, you feel this need to just continue on in these clarifications that are really very unnecessary. And that this clarifications that you give make us all concerned about your commitment to the truth. And I want to give you some of those clarifications that make me uncertain and really very concerned about the policy making within the department. You talk about the Trump administration when people ask you questions about the president's decision making. When we're asking about President Trump, you redefine it as the Trump administration. You say our decisions are aligned with the president, as if you're reinterpreting the president's decision-making. I want to know about the president's decision-making, not you being your interpretation about being aligned. So tell me you're not trying to make decisions where you're just divining an alignment with the president and interpretation that President Trump is the one making decisions, because up here, we're losing confidence as to whether or not Mr. Colby's going into a room and trying to decide whether or not he's aligned with the president or whether or not President Trump's making decisions, because we're all comfortable with Mr. Trump's and President Trump's decision. We're not comfortable with Mr. Colby's.
Well, sir, a couple things. First of all, I make it a point of being truthful, so I categorically reject your characterization, but I'm happy to answer your questions
here. Well, it was the chairman, and you didn't reject it when he was straight up telling you that he had conversations with you and was very concerned about what you'd said to him and then what had happened.
I believe I'm just making the point in general. We make it very much our business. Part of being truthful is I give you a sense of what I know and what I don't know. I can't speak. I'm often... The Secretary is the one who's primarily over in the White House, but we make sure that we are very lined up. Secretary is with the President all the time.
You said it again, lined up,
and
lined up. I want you to make certain that the decision-making is President Trump.
And I am a loyal lieutenant of the President, Mr. Turner. I can assert that absolutely.
Well, We are very, very concerned in this committee that that is not necessarily happening at times, and that's what we try to assert and what we try to make certain happens. I yield back.